Hi guys, welcome to Tutes Online. Today I'm going to take you through the large intestine. Let's start off with a bit of information first. The large intestine is involved in the last stages of digestion. And by this I mean water is absorbed from indigestible food matter, and this will be ejected from the body. The large intestine commences at the ileocecal valve. And this separates the small intestine from the large intestine. And this is located at the cecum, the first part of the large intestine. It consists of two flaps which taper to form things called frenulae. Another feature of the large intestine is that it has saculations, or haustoria. And these are alternating expansions and constrictions of colon. They are formed by muscle called tinea coli. And what these are three longitudinal ribbons of smooth muscle which run on the outside of the colon. Another feature is something called epiploic or omental appendices. And these are fat-filled sacs of peritoneum, and they are only present on the transverse colon and the sigmoid colon. The large intestine has no villi. It consists of the cecum, the appendix, the ascending colon, the transverse colon, the descending colon, the sigmoid colon, the rectum, and the anus. However, we're going to cover the rectum and the anal canal in a later tutorial. Let's move on to the cecum now. The cecum is in the right iliac fossa, and it is suspended by the ascending colon. It is a blind pouch, and behind it is what is called the rectocecal recess. Food moves into the cecum through the ileocecal valve via the gastro-ileo-reflex. What happens is there are strong peristaltic contractions in the stomach. Which cause the small intestines, and more importantly the ileum, to commence peristalsis. This moves the food into the cecum through the ileocecal valve. And this promotes peristalsis in the large intestine. And this sends signals to the brain which give us the urge to defecate. Moving on to the appendix. This is suspended off the cecum. It can be found in the rectocecal recess or hanging over the pelvic brim. It opens into the cecum below the ileocecal valve. And this opening can be found via locating a point on the surface of the body called McBurney's point. And the way in which this is found is by drawing a line between the anterior superior iliac spine and the umbilicus. And you do this on the right side of the body because the appendix is found on the right side of the body. So once you've drawn this line, you come up 1/3 away from the anterior superior iliac spine, and this is McBurney's point. Now let's move on to the ascending colon. It's usually retroperitoneal, but it can have a short mesentery. It commences at the cecum and continues until the right colic flexure, or the hepatic flexure. This is the flexure that takes place near the liver. The right kidney and the descending duodenum are posterior to the ascending colon. And the fundus of the gallbladder is anterior to the ascending colon. Now we'll move on to the transverse colon. It's suspended by a mesentery, and we call this mesentery the transverse mesocolon. And this is attached to the greater omentum and also the pancreas. And because of its attachment to the transverse mesocolon, the transverse colon is highly mobile. It can be usually located in the umbilical region. It spans from the right colic flexure or hepatic flexure to the left colic flexure or splenic flexure. It is the flexure that is underneath the spleen. We'll move on to the descending colon. It's partly suspended by mesentery and partly retroperitoneal. It spans from the left colic flexure or splenic flexure to the pelvic inlet. It turns in the left iliac fossa and continues as the sigmoid colon. In the descending and sigmoid colons there is little absorption of water, and these parts are more for the storage of waste, before the waste gets moved to the rectum and ejected. Okay, now we have the sigmoid colon. This is suspended via mesentery. And this mesentery is what is referred to as the sigmoid mesocolon. Because it is suspended by mesentery, the sigmoid colon is quite mobile. It's usually located around the pelvis region, but it can be displaced into the abdominal cavity. The sigmoid colon spans from the lesser pelvis it extends medially, it bends back on itself, and then ends at the rectum. Anterior to the sigmoid colon in males is the bladder, and in females, the uterus is anterior to the sigmoid colon. Let's take a look at a diagram of the large intestine now. Here we have the mesoappendix and the appendix. The mesoappendix is just a piece of mesentery attaching to the appendix. Then we have the cecum, and behind the cecum is the retrocecal recess. Moving up, we have the ascending colon. Then we have the right colic flexure, or hepatic flexure. We have the transverse mesocolon and the transverse colon. Then we have the left colic flexure or splenic flexure. The descending colon. The sigmoid colon. And the sigmoid mesocolon. And that about wraps it up for the large intestine. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, please feel free to comment. Make sure you visit the website or subscribe if you want to learn more about the human body. Thanks, and I'll see you soon.